Eubank fight fans. Big weekend of boxing. Virgil Ortiz comes out with the big win. What's out? What else is in the news? We got Chris Eubank, Benn 2 that takes place this weekend in London. Manny Pacquiao. I think he's calling out Floyd Mayweather still. We're going to see how that's going to go. So yeah. Where do we start? Let's start with Virgil Ortiz. Big fight over the weekend.
Yeah, crazy, man. I expect, a little bit more of a back and forth in that fight. Ortiz did what he had to do. He shut that down a lot faster. And, I think he did a, tremendous job. It was only 2 rounds, but he did very well in using his game plan right away. He in between rounds, he listened to his trainer, Robert Garcia, and everything, and he just played it out perfectly. So big props to Virgil Ortiz on that one.
Yeah. Hey, so, looking at the first round, Lubin looked strong. Or he looked, I wasn't expecting a second round.
Yeah.
For Virgil to come out.
Yeah, I feel like it was almost a little repeat of the game plan he had with Ramos. Was kind of sit up on the ropes and try to slow the pace down and stuff. But you saw Ortiz was smarter than that. He was breaking between the guard, pulling guard and everything, reaching around his defense and busting out angles and everything right away. So it was too much for Lubin, and he just got caught clean. He's a little too relaxed early on in the fight. Maybe should have warmed up a little more and gotten into the deeper waters. But I think he just got too lax too soon.
Yeah. So typically, he's okay on the ropes, right? I've seen him okay on the ropes in the past, but was that his problem? He just got stuck, or was it just the overwhelming power from Ortiz?
I just think it's like I said in our pre-fight analysis that Lubin's good at slowing down the pace, but can he slow it down against a guy that doesn't care? When he fought Ramos was more like okay, like where can I find these opening spots? Ortiz was making them. He was finding those openings and forcing those openings. Like I said, pulling his guard down, throwing around his defense and getting those angles in and reaching the body when he could. So that's not the way to slow down Ortiz.
So is it the end for Lubin? Do you think Lubin, I don't want to say the end, but that was not, he showed a lot of flaws.
He's a guy that just hasn't been able to get over that hump. So, once again, this was another shot, it was an interim title.
Yes.
And it's going to be hard. He's really going to have to do a lot of building back. So this was a major crossroads fight for him. And, it didn't go his way. So it's going to be a tough one, but I'll never count a guy out, as long as they keep fighting, keep training, keep committing themselves. But, this is going to be a very uphill battle.
So what's next for Virgil Ortiz now?
I know Boots hopped in the ring right
yes,
away.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, they're really pushing for that fight. And as a fight fan, I'd love to see that fight. I think they have very good contrasting styles that could make for a very action-packed fight. I think him with they're calling out Errol Spence. There's been a lot of talk, rumors with that fight, which I think is kind of weird because Spence hasn't even really mentioned his comeback or anything. But again, as a fight fan, I think that would be a great stylistic matchup. See what Errol Spence can kind of bring back if he's it's a long layoff, but also a long rest, which is much needed for him. So we'll see what he can kind of bring to the table, but I really think those 2 fights are kind of be his biggest options, unless he goes for a unification fight with either Zayas, or a Bakram that has the IBF that nobody seems to talk about.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a few ones, but it's a small list, I guess.
Okay, so is he the real deal? Do you think he's unbeatable at this point?
I don't think anybody's unbeatable. I still see flaws myself, that I think are open there, that can be, but it's going to take the right person, the right style, and everything to take advantage of those. So it's going to be interesting, and I don't think he's invincible. I don't want to create this boogeyman, another boogeyman in the division. But I think he is real. He's a real fighter. Top level fighter.
Chris Eubank Jr., Benn 2.
Ooh, yeah.
Wow, do you think it's going to live up to the first fight that took place earlier this year in London in April?
Yeah. I do think it will. Both guys still have that bad blood. They weren't too cool. I think Benn tried to be kind of cool after the fight, show respect and everything, but I still think there's bad blood, and they're one of the few fights that actually did live up to the bad blood before, because how many times, do we get all these guys, talking crap, talking all this stuff,
yes.
and the fight just doesn't play out that way. These guys meant it. They meant every word, and, they made their fathers proud. They're both juniors of, great fighters, and I really think this second one's going to live up to it again. I know Benn, he lost his undefeated record, And we're gonna see, because after you lose that, it can make you or break you, and that's what we're gonna find out. Is it gonna give him that extra hunger, to, because they did have a close fight. So is it gonna give him that extra hunger, to get over the edge and secure that victory this time, or is it gonna be a repeat because Eubank is bigger and he's coming with that same passion and fire?
Yes, yes. So is it fair to say that maybe he should change up his game plan, maybe not stay in the middle of the ring like he did in back in April, and try to make it? Let it be a slugfest again, or should he maybe just change up his plan, box a little more, stay on the outside? What are your thoughts there?
I think so. I think if either one of these guys implements a jab in a few angles, I think they could really walk away with the fight. Because they were both, they really just, let it all out on the line and just went for it. That was 12 rounds of just banging it out,
Potential fight of the year.
Exactly.
Right?
I agree. I definitely think that was one, because it lived up to the pre-fight hype, and they really just, they let their souls out in that fight. They put everything out there, and they both really wanted it. So I definitely agree that's a big run for fight of the year. And we could get a repeat in the second one, but I really think if either of them uses just a little bit of boxing in it, they could walk away. Because what if if the other guy is still just trying to just duke it out, then the guy that's going to just use a little bit of a jab, get the angles on him and get his own shots off without eating so much return fire, I think they could have a clear victor.
Were you surprised, considering the size of Eubank, that Benn was able to sustain those big punches, and he took a lot?
Yeah. And, like I said, major props to both guys. I think they, like I keep saying, they just both really laid it out on the line. And, it did, even though there was a winner and a loser, it paid off for both of them. They gained, I know, tons of new fans and everything, the respect of a lot of people. And we're going to see. But I do still edge Eubank in the rematch because of the size and everything. And if they have a repeat performance, I think the size will play another factor, just like it did in the first fight.
You said use some of the jabs and change it up a little bit. What else can you see Benn really doing to really have a big impact?
It's really just that, just don't stand so much in the pocket in the middle, like use your jab a little bit, so you can set Eubank up for some more shots. Work off an angle. That way, when you hit him, when he's landing his shots on Eubank, it's not so easy for Eubank to just swing away, and he could hit you with his eyes closed because you're right in front of him. So I think that's the thing, just an angle, just off to the side a little bit, so you have less return fire, and your combinations have more of an impact on the judges and on the fans, because they're seeing that you're landing and not getting hit back right away. And I know that could take away some of the excitement, for the fans, because some people just want to see people just kind of kill each other in there. But I think since Conor Benn is a smaller fighter, I feel like he needs to use a little bit more of boxing to make it a little more clear when he is getting the better of those exchanges.
Got it. So Conor Benn just had amazing head movement, right? He's an awkward fighter. I don't want to say compare him to Manny Pacquiao, but in a lot of ways, he's really an awkward fighter. And it seemed like Eubank had some challenges, or some challenges in the first couple of rounds, kind of nailing him down. Should Benn continue with that head movement, and what should maybe Chris Eubank do to try to tighten that gap a little earlier in the fight?
Yeah, I think, like I'm saying, I think Conor Benn's key is going to be to add some defense in this fight, any type of defense, and using the jab as a defense. When your offense is your defense, and like I said, those angles. But yeah, the head movement was great. I feel like anything he could use to slip some of those punches or block some of them or anything is going to make a huge difference, because when two guys are just hitting each other back and forth, the judges and the crowd may sway, for the bigger guy that looks like he's landing the bigger shots anyway. So even though you are doing damage and everything, and we saw, how Eubank came walking out of that fight, how it looked and everything, Benn obviously did some good damage, but he's not getting as much credit for everything he does. And then Eubank, same thing, you mix up some feints so to get him to waste that head movement, and then you see where he's going, corner him that way. Some jabs, a lot of feints, I think, would neutralize some of that head movement.
Nice. Yes, it's great advice for him. So 67,000 fans packed that arena, right? Or that stadium out in London. I'm sure the numbers are going to be again this weekend. You can watch that live on DAZN this weekend. November 15th. Manny Pacquiao, he's still calling out Floyd Mayweather. Is that real?
It's kind of crazy to me. I felt like even the first fight, I felt like it was a little bit past the the date of when we should have gotten it, and then now this one. But like I said, they're both older, so they're both still more at the same level, and they're both still legendary fighters. So it's always gonna be a good fight and everything, but we see how it plays out. But I know there was rumors about Pacquiao, going after Rolly's belt and everything, and because I know they're really trying to get Pacquiao that belt, at his age and everything, and trying to make history in that way. But I'm not sure if personally, just personal opinion, if I would want to see the Mayweather Pacquiao fight like that again, I would watch it, if they make it. But I feel like it's another one of these that even if they make it a real fight or an exhibition, I feel like it's another. Yeah, I feel like a exhibition type fight. They're just coming back, but you can't turn down the type of money that these guys would make for that level of fight.
Probably 5 times the amount of money than fighting Rolly for Pacquiao.
Exactly,
I would suspect.
Yeah. So when they're at that level, the belts don't matter as much. They don't need it. For the bigger paychecks, but it's still like, are you chasing history and stuff? But there's no way you're turning down the type of money that Mayweather and Pacquiao could pull in together.
So we saw Pacquiao against Barrios earlier in the year. Pacquiao for 46, soon to be 47 is he looked great. I mean, I haven't seen Mayweather in a competition fight in years.
Yeah.
How would that play out? Do you see? I mean, nor have I seen Mayweather really active. On social media, hitting the bag. I mean, what type of shape is he in? Right?
Yeah, I feel like he's the type of guy that always stays in good shape, decent shape, and everything. He has his whole life of it, that even when he was retired for a year or two or whatever, that he would keep going. But that could give Pacquiao an edge because he's been in there with a legitimate champion, and he showed he's still got the awkwardness, that crazy speed, the awkward angles throwing from where you'd least expect it. So having that real live fire, not an exhibition, real live fire from a young, hungry champion like Barrios, it could give him an edge because now Pacquiao's got that sharpness to it.
Yes,
he has been back in there, and that's where we could see a difference now with Mayweather, because Mayweather definitely needs those reflexes against a guy like Pacquiao, and he was able to get the job done before, but now at the age difference for both of them, but Pacquiao's going to be a little bit sharper now going into a full-blown camp and a repeat now after that Barrios fight. So it'd be definitely interesting to see it.
What's better for the fans? Is it Mayweather Pacquiao or is it Pacquiao Rolly?
I feel like because now it's going to be for me, I think, can Pacquiao pull it off against a young champion like Rolly that has bricks in his hands, and it's chasing history, another belt after so many divisions he's captured. So like I feel like that would be kind of cool to see, and then seeing if Rolly could actually catch him. Like Mario wasn't able to pull off certain things with him. He wasn't able to establish the consistency throughout the whole fight. So seeing if Rolly can maybe pull it off. He definitely pulled off a huge upset by outboxing Ryan, which, like I said, was not in my bingo card for that fight. So it'll be interesting, but I would personally kind of like to see the Pacquiao Rolly, just because it's a young, different type of matchup, but like I said, there's no turning down the level of money that these guys can generate between Mayweather and Pacquiao.
So what would Mayweather have to do going up against Pacquiao, who's definitely proven himself? Mm-hmm. What do you see his game plan?
I think more of just a repeat of his last performance. He was able to stop Pacquiao. Anytime he would try to build up momentum or get his rhythm going, he would shut it down. He'd walk around the ring a little bit, move him, offset his rhythm and balance. So I think it's just a film study his own fight. A lot of the same stuff there, and Pacquiao's the one that would have to make some more adjustments. I know back then, I think he said it was a shoulder or something that was injured. So maybe that, and maybe after all these years, Pacquiao can add a little bit more, just because he will be fresher, not injured and stuff like that. So we'll see. But Mayweather, it's kind of a repeat of the first performance.
Oh, there you go. There you have it.